All right, guys, let's take a look at question number 5. Question 5 says a group of 18 people ordered soup and sandwiches for lunch. Each person in the group had either one soup or one sandwich. The sandwich cost $7.75 each, and the soup cost $4.50. If the total cost of all 18 lunches was $113.50, how many sandwiches were ordered? All right. So a question like question number 4 is a pretty lengthy word problem. I'm gonna approach this algebraically initially, and then we'll look at how to do this using a different technique. Okay. So algebraically, this is a standard in it, whether we talk about TSI, STAR, SAT. Almost every standardized test has a question like this. This is the prototypical sort of question, and you're going to have two equations. You're going to solve what's called a system of equations. All right, so we're going to start off with the first sentence again. Let me reread it. A group of 18 people ordered soup and sandwiches for lunch. So I have to write an equation that represents this. Now, what's annoying to me in this question is soup and sandwiches both start with the letter S. I usually like to say, use the first letter in each of the words, but here it would be S and S, and that wouldn't help me out. So I'm going to stick with X and Y, and maybe what I'll do is above soup and sandwiches, I'll write X and Y. I could also do SO and SA, but that gets a little cumbersome for me. It's a little difficult to tell. Sometimes you think SO is like O is times 0 or something to that effect. So I'm going to leave that alone, just use X and Y. All right, but what I'm going to do is in front of each soup, let me move this over here. In front of each soup and sandwich, I'm going to put an X and a Y just to emphasize. So soup X, sandwich Y, sandwich Y, soup X. That's going to be for sandwich, which is Y. Okay, so I know kind of what's going on here. I can kind of tell every time I have a soup, I can put an X, and every time I see a sandwich, I can put a Y, and I can approach this problem. Okay, let's go through and do this. So what does it mean when I say a group of 18, total of 18 people? Well, total means sum, so X plus Y is 18. All right? Then it says, that was your first equation. Then it says the sandwich costs $7.75 and the soup costs $4.50. And they spend a total of $113.50. So how can I solve this? Well, I can write that as an equation too. I can write $7.75 for each sandwich, which is Y, plus $4.50 for the soup, which is X, equals 113.5. All right, so there's my equation. Okay, so there's my system of equations. So how do you solve a system of equations? All right, well, the best strategy in this situation is to use what's known as substitution. And what substitution says is I look at X and I look at Y, and I want to solve ultimately for Y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate X. So what that means is I'm going to move Y over here. Okay, how do I move Y? Well, this is plus Y. I'm going to subtract Y from both sides. I'm going to rewrite that over here. This yields, this is like, instead of writing below, just write to the right. It's going to be X equals to 18 minus Y. Okay, again, subtracting Y from both sides gives me X equals 18 minus Y. Okay, it's called substitution because then I'm going to take this value and I'm going to substitute it in here. So upon doing so, I'm going to get 7.75Y plus 4.50 times quantity 18 minus Y. So note when I do substitute it in, when I do substitute it in, I'm going to put it in parentheses. All right? So how do we go about solving a system of equations? Well, once you substitute in, this is just, you have only y's. So if I only have y's, I can solve the equation, right? If you have only one variable, you can solve it. So let's go through and solve it. All right, so how am I going to do this? I'm going to distribute. All right, so this becomes 7.75y plus, okay, so I'm going to do 450 times 18. All right, well, if I'm going to do this by hand, this is the easiest way I think of doing it. I'm going to do 4 times 18, okay? So 4 times 18 is going to be, I think, 72. And let me write that off to the side. So 18 times 4, that's 2, 72, okay? So that's 72. And then I'll do half of 18, which is 9. So that just means I'm going to add 9 to this. And this is going to give me, adding 9, 81, okay? Now you might be looking at that for a second and be like, what the heck did he just do? Well, all I really did was I said 4 plus 50 cents and then distributed 18, okay? So that was 72 and that was half of 18, which is 9. 72 plus 9 is 81, okay? It's a different way of kind of doing math. I recommend, if you get comfortable with it, you can do math in your head, okay? Calculator is there for the TSI, but at some point, I promise you will get to some point when you're doing math. For some institution, they will not give you a calculator. So learning how to do math without a calculator is useful. All right, so we're here. Let's go through. Let's continue. So I'm going to subtract 450 from 775. It's going to leave me with 325y plus 81 equals 113.5. All right. Okay, what did I do here? Because there's a y here and there's minus y here, I just subtracted them. So note I paid attention to the sign here and I did 7.75 minus 450. Really in my head I did 75 minus 50, which is 0.25, and 7 minus 4 is 3. Okay, again, 0.75 minus 0.50 is 0.25. You got 3/4, take away 2, you're left with 1. 7 minus 4 is 3. Okay, so we're here. The next move algebraically is if I'm adding 81 and I got 13.5 there, I'm going to subtract 81 from both sides. Put 2 decimal places there to help me do that. Give me 0, 5, 2, that's 3. So we got 3250 equals 3.25y. Okay. Keep in mind you do get a calculator to do basic arithmetic, and arithmetic means just add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I don't have a calculator around me right now, so I'm just doing this by hand, hoping that the numbers come out nice. And they have consistently done that. That's good to know. What do I do to finish this off? Divide. Remember we said whenever you see a number and a letter next to each other, that means it's multiply. Opposite of multiplication is division. So divide. And what do I get? Well, notice here that 325, 325 match up, so they cancel out, and I'm going to be left with 10. So y is 10. Keep in mind that we were solving for sandwiches. Remember, I put a y next to sandwiches to emphasize that I'm solving for sandwiches. So D is the correct answer. All right, so you look at this. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a lot. Let me break this off so you don't. There's a little math on the side. That's a lot of math, and if you're not comfortable with math, this is pretty bad. This can be a little tedious. Okay. I will suggest at the end of the day, you really need to be able to solve these types of problems. This should be something that you're capable of doing at the end of the day. Okay. I also want to note that if you started this off and you weren't paying attention and you got y by itself and you had y minus 18 minus x, you could solve through all of this. You just have to substitute back in. So it would have been 18 minus, like let's say I'm solving for x here, it'd be 18 minus y. Y is 10. Give me x to be 8. Okay. Also want to stress, remember when we talked the other day, or the other problem, we said in rule 1 says make sure you are solving the problem. So if I'm asking for sandwiches, sandwiches is 10, but if I did 18 minus 10, I get 8. So soup tends to be 8. So if you're not solving for the problem, 8 is an answer choice here. So you can see that rule number 1, strategy number 1 is extremely important. Be careful with that. Okay? So what's the other approach? Okay, how do I solve this the other way? All right. Well, I'm going to start off by saying the first part you should be able to always do. Okay, it's not difficult, and I've seen these problems over and over again, and they always tend to be the same thing. So I'm going to rewrite the first step. So if you can set up the equation, this is a good first step. Okay. This is actually I find that a lot of students do this just naturally. Okay. If I have answer choices, and the answer choices are for y, why don't I just plug in the answer choices and solve? So I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit and know that the answer is 10. So I'm going to plug in 10 here, and I'm going to see what happens. So if I plug in 10, notice here that if 10 is here, then 8 plus 10 is 18, right? So if y is 10, x is 8. Let me just cheat here, right? And y is 10. All right, and just plug it in. So 7.75 times 10 plus 4.5 times 8 should give me 113.50. Now I'm getting really lucky here, because since I'm multiplying by 10, this is just 77.5. The thing is, when you multiply by 10, you just move the decimal place back one. Okay. Again, you have a calculator. You don't need to know how to do this, but for the TSI, but you do need to know how to do this in real life. This one is this 4.5 times 8. A lot of students look at this and like, oh, I don't know how to do this. It's actually really easy. Look, 4 times 8 is 32. Half of 8 is 4. 32 plus 4 is 36. Okay, let me do that again. All I'm doing is I'm using this strategy here. I'm saying, and I'll just even put it right here. I'm doing 4 plus 0.5 times 8, which is 4 times 8, which is 32. Half of 8 is 4. 32 plus 4 is 36. Okay? 36. Okay, so I got this. And if these add up to 113.5, I am correct. And let's see here. Do these add up? Well, 50 cents goes with 50 cents. So if 36 plus 77 is 113, I'm good to go. 7 and 3 is 13. Carry the 1. 3 and 7 is 10, plus 1 is 11, so boom, it does work, okay? We'll say it one more time, and no, it's not like a broken record. You do have a calculator. You can just type this in, okay? That's a great strategy, and actually, that actually is kind of encompassing two of our earlier strategies. So we talked about one, make sure you answer the question, but we also talked about plugging in. Here I said plug in points, and here I said plug in answer choices. I'm sorry, here's number 2, plug in answer choices. And this is a good example of how you can plug in the answer choices to solve the problem, okay? If you can set up the equation, we set up the equation right here. If we can set up the equation, we can just plug in the answer choices and we'll get the correct answer, okay? So again, like before, do me a favor, if you have any questions, hopefully this is clear, but if you have any questions, let me know. Maybe we can do something else to kind of make this a little clearer to y'all. All right, another long video. Hopefully the next one won't be too bad. All right, see you next time.